mindfulness is a mental formation. Everyone has a seed of mindfulness. And if we practice diligently, and then the grain, and then the seed of mindfulness in us will grow bigger and bigger. And anytime we need that energy of mindfulness, we just touch it, and we have plenty of it in order to make use. And we know that mindfulness has the power, has the capacity to allow us to know what is going on. Going on in our body, going on in our feelings, going on in our mind, and going on in the world.
I remember very clearly one time in Plum Village, Thai came out with this expression, happy teachers will change the world. Since then, Thai has done a calligraphy, happy teachers will change the world. And we've developed this Wake Up Schools initiative, which is our offering to bring mindfulness and the Plum Village traditions practices to offer to teachers and classrooms, schools. And yeah, Thai, our teacher, very much wants this to happen.
And if teachers know how to do that, they will transmit the practice to the students. The practice is possible in the classroom, and the classroom will be happier.
So in education, we want to touch happiness and touch freedom. Those are 2 points that I feel are fundamental to any kind of education.
Help teachers be happier in their work, to help students, the whole classroom environment, be a place that is enjoyable. To make a school become like a second family, where the teachers, the students, and the whole school, and the parents as well, see it as a joint effort to create a place where it's not about the future, about your careers and the jobs and the positions and the money, but it's a place where you actually, enjoy living and enjoy learning and enjoy exploring.
When we're born, we don't necessarily know how to touch happiness. There's a joy in the child, but how do we maintain that joy? How do we grow it? And how do we make it lasting so that it can withstand all the kind of difficulties we face?
One very wise teacher told me that a good teacher must first be happy, because you transmit your presence to your students. You're really like the weather in the classroom.
The mindfulness and just being able to see things with a different set of eyes, just simply through smiling, breathing, and moving slowly. Who would have thought? That's so simple.
To be alive on this planet and to be making steps on this beautiful planet is a miracle. Mindful walking means you touch the ground of the planet Earth mindfully, and you touch all the wonders of life. And mindfulness allowed us to be aware that we are alive, that we are walking on this planet. Every step can be healing, every step can be nourishing, every step can free us from the past and the future so that we can truly enjoy the present moment. And there are those of us who are capable of healing ourselves just by mindful walking.
I walked just mindfully, taking care of my steps. And at that moment, just seeing these two groups come together and merge into one big group, one big community. And at that moment, I felt tremendous joy in me. And I remember Thai always asks us to come back to our home. Of course, like mentally, intellectually, I know that it's coming back to home myself, to the present moment. But at that moment, I just suddenly kind of like understand what he said too by coming back to home. The home is maybe the community of us walking together, flowing as a river. It's not fixed, it's always flowing. And the interconnectedness, coming back to home, to this feeling, this present moment of interconnectedness, I felt like, oh, how wonderful.
So effortlessness is the nature of the practice. You don't strive, you don't fight, you do not impose the practice on yourself. You do not suffer because of the practice. You just enjoy breathing in, you just enjoy making a step. And when your breathing is peaceful, deep, harmonious, and then your body will profit from it. Your body will come lighter, more peaceful. And also your feelings will be more peaceful. In our daily life, very often our body is there, but our mind is elsewhere. And in these moments, you are not truly alive. And according to this practice, you need only to breathe in mindfully, and you ride on your in-breath and go home in just 1, 2, 3 seconds. And when your mind is with your body, you are well established in the here and the now. And you can touch the wonders of life inside and around for your nourishment and healing.
Right now I've been using my mindfulness practice to help keep me more clear in my classroom with the stresses that come, and to be present for the students, and also to know when I'm not feeling like that, to try to find a way to bring more freshness and more presence to myself.
A happy teacher is a teacher that has time to be there for himself or herself.
Someone knows how to take care of themselves, that they have enough balance, that they know how to deal with the challenges they have.
Because one of the biggest problems in teaching is actually that teachers give too much without putting anything back. And we have this big problem of teacher stress and burnout.
Teaching and learning can look like we're very busy, we're giving this, we're doing that, computers are out. But like, what are actually students getting? What are we actually cultivating in young people? So I feel like that's kind of a hard question.
And I have kids coming in and out all day, like they might come for 45 minutes or 90 minutes, but there's a lot of transition. It can be very hectic. So I would start with that simple practice. Just as the brother did for us here, I would have the kids sit in a circle and I would ring the bell.
I'd get out my little bell and I'd say to my students, all right, our bodies are here, but where are our minds? Our minds might still be in lunch, it might still be in math class. And so if one hand represents our mind and the other hand represents our body, when I invite the bell and we bring awareness to our breathing, our mind and body come together.
I listen. I listen. You are listening very deeply. You allow the sound of bell to penetrate into your body, every cell of your body. And when you breathe out, you say, this wonderful sound brings me back to my true home.
To really be there in the classroom. I mean, your body can be there, but your mind might not be there. And when you're mindful, your mind and your body are there, and you have more of a chance to really, if you're there, you know who else is there, you know you're there, and you can have a real encounter, true communication with someone else. And real learning can happen when there's two humans who really connect with each other, because they're both present. And then, that's a life-giving moment.
Like Tai says, the best gift you can offer is your true presence.
So you have to start with teachers. You have to have teachers who are themselves calm, centered, able to really be there for the kids.
So mindfulness is key, and it starts with us. It starts with being able to come home to ourselves and really be there for ourselves. And then the moment of teaching and learning becomes a really rewarding experience of connection. It has quality to it because you're learning information, but you're learning to be a human being at the same time.
Dear friends, eating can be a deep meditation also. During breakfast time or lunch time, we can stop our thinking. When I pick up a piece of bread, I may spend 1 or 2 seconds to recognize that is a piece of bread. That's mindfulness. And mindfulness has concentration in it. And 1 second of mindfulness and concentration allow me to see that this breath contains the whole cosmos. The rain, the cloud, the earth, time, space, farmers, everything. And when you put that piece of bread into your mouth, you are in touch with the whole cosmos. And we can eat every morsel of our breakfast or our lunch in that way. And from time to time, we stop eating and we are aware of the co-practitioners, brothers and sisters in the Dharma who are there, and that can help build the spirit, the energy of brotherhood and sisterhood, joy and peace.
When we have our Dharma discussion families, we just sit in a circle and we share. Maybe 25 people that never met each other before. But people get so much from this experience because we set it up in such a way that everybody has a chance to share and be listened to. And the energy of concentration, of listening is quite profound. We don't go into dialogue and we're not interrupted. And you don't get advice, you get people sharing their experience, and it may relate to somebody else's experience. And you get authentic sharings from people. People open up, share from their heart what is going on for them, what is their experience, what is their difficulty, what is their success, what they found to be helpful for them. So we exchange experiences that are beneficial, and also we get to put down our load if we're having a difficulty. So a lot of healing takes place, and people experience this feeling of brotherhood and sisterhood in this kind of circle in a way which seems miraculous.
My Dharma discussions, I just cried through every session of that because it was such sisterhood. We had a couple of brothers, but it was such a sisterhood bond in that.
The sense of belonging to a community, that is something that happens here in the retreat, is so powerful and so inspiring.
There's a tremendous support, sense of safety. There's a protectedness in the teachings.
A sense of sacredness, a sense of deep love.
And after 4 or 5 days of just being in this collective energy of peace, quiet, mindfulness, ease, not having any projects to work on, any meetings to attend, just letting go of their thinking, coming back to their breathing, being aware of their body and their emotion for 4 or 5 days. I think they felt very, very touched that we care enough. That will always be a core part of Wake Up Schools, taking care of the teacher.
there is a habit energy in every one of us. We are used to run. Usually people don't like to go home to themselves and get in touch with the suffering inside. They are afraid of being overwhelmed by the suffering inside. So the usual way is to try to run away from their own suffering. They try to cover up the suffering inside, their loneliness, their fear, their anger, and their despair. So for a teacher, or school teachers, the first thing to do is to go home to himself or herself. The way out is in. Go back to oneself and take care of oneself. Learning how to generate a feeling of joy, learning how to generate a feeling of happiness, learning how to handle a painful feeling, a painful emotion. Listening to the suffering, allow understanding and compassion to be born and suffer less. This is the first step. And she has to do that. That is the first step.
5 years ago, my father passed away. And at that time, it was an aneurysm, very sudden. And so I kept, I retreated. I can remember at that time, I don't know, people would try to get it out of me. My wife tried very hard to have me talk about it. I couldn't. I thought, I can control this. My rational mind thought I could control this experience. But since that time, I lose my temper. I'll yell, raise my voice. Things have happened. But coming here, at the beginning of the retreat, Tay made a comment. He said, sometimes through the practice, you can touch your suffering. And I didn't really, I listened. But then when there was a sister leading the mindfulness of the inner child, and so we had to visualize the inner child, take care of our fragility, and then she went on to the mother inside of us. And I love my mother very much, and that was a very painful time for her. But I found myself, though I was trying to concentrate, thinking, move on to the Father, move on to the Father in me. And I've caused suffering for my wife, I've caused suffering for my children, for my students, in not knowing about my anger. And I felt that moment that I actually had touched my suffering.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's because of all these people that have taught me so much lessons.
And it was very much overwhelming for me. And I'm very grateful.
We can speak about the goodness of suffering. If we know how to embrace suffering, to hold it tenderly, to look deeply into it, and then we will be able to generate the energy of compassion and understanding, which are at the foundation of true happiness. It's like when you grow lotus flowers, you need the mud. Lotus flowers cannot grow on marble. Without the mud, you cannot grow lotus. The same thing is true with happiness and suffering. A good practitioner knows how to make good use of suffering in order to grow happiness.
We get teachers in our retreats that want to come and learn curriculums and techniques, but in the end, we teach them how to transform themselves, how to bring about happiness in their own lives. And that is more powerful than any curriculum or technique.
Although it's important to teach young people mindfulness, it's even more important to be mindful yourself as a teacher, because kids pick up on what you embody, who you are, much more than they do what you tell them to do.
It's just fundamental to any kind of teaching. The teacher needs to master it before they can share with the student.
This being my first retreat has been very eye-opening, very heart-opening to me. So I consider myself a skeptic, I think.
There's been a relatively small number of studies, but they are powerful, and they show that mindfulness with young people has very similar impacts to mindfulness with adults, where there's a very good evidence base, showing, not surprisingly, that young people's minds are the same as adults' minds, essentially, which show that mindfulness appears to have an impact on mental health, stress, anxiety, depression. It can help kids to learn more effectively, and that's very important for schools who may not be interested, sadly, in the mental health side, but are always inspired by the idea of improved results, better learning, better concentration, and so on. And mindfulness would appear to improve that side of school, and also appear to help kids to have better relationships with one another, to behave better even, to be less impulsive, to manage their emotions more effectively.
I felt the difference in me of walking meditation every day, sitting meditation and guided meditation, and what that can do to increase my ability to be open and my ability to notice my reactions before they spill over.
So these changes are not just subjective, they're actually visible on brain scans, and I think that is really quite influential, again, over people who are wondering whether there's any science here and whether this is just wishful thinking. You can actually see the physiological changes in brains.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Breathing in, breathing out.
Just the image of so many people, ordinary people, teachers, administrators, really being inspired by these messages. Just the vision of all those people sitting in the hall, meditating, listening to Thai. the depth of discussion that happens in the little Dharma groups we're in, the way people open up to each other, the honesty, the freshness. It is just a real endorsement of mindfulness as a way of being and a way of helping people feel more authentic, which is not always to be happy in the sense of cheerful and smiley. There's been a lot of tears, there's been a lot of opening up, but just renewing that sense of touching the humanity in everyone and in oneself, feeling part of a greater whole is just priceless.
Experience suffering and is happiness is suffering. And
so our mindfulness is not just like a technique to be successful, but it's a technique to be a free human being. So if you stay with it long enough, that will become its intention. It's not just like stress reduction or being a successful student, but it's actually coming to the deepest of your suffering and finding a way to be free from it and to untie these knots that are stuck in your mind. So I think this is, it's kind of more like the ultimate concern.
I can do this, and I can share it.
Coming here just made me even more eager and hopeful about a new school year, and not to impose anything I've learned on my students, but to bring to them a teacher that is happy, a teacher that can find peace and joy in being in the classroom.
I have tremendous hope for my future and what I can do as a teacher.
to know that I can be a part of this mindful movement, that can change the world. We've talked about that, the theme, the happy teachers can change the world. You know, it's the happy kids that are going to change the world. We're just sort of a vehicle, you know, to bring that movement wherever we go.
And then the long-term project of thinking as we could live like this and as we could practice this even more, what an impact that's going to have on the world.
That's why we say happy teachers will change the world.
If we are a happy teacher, we are a mindful teacher. And that mindfulness ripples out around us.
I am so free because I can be me. Look at the clouds at play, passing over every day. clouds passing by, flying high in the grand open sky. Everything